The number one factor of success is going to be your ability to recognize your behavior today is going to matter to you a lot tomorrow.
Shout out to our sponsor, Local Cold Brew Coffee. Make sure to get yours today. Welcome to Book BFFs, the show that celebrates wonderful people and the books they're inspired by. I'm your host, Jenny Valdez, and today I'm here with the wonderful Slade Wentworth. How are you, Slade?
I'm great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you here. So I've seen your online presence, and I'm high-key a big fan.
Oh.
But for those that don't know what you do, can you please explain yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. On Instagram, which is the biggest platform, I am the Dad Briefs, and we do recipes, reviews, hacks, humor, and hopefully people enjoy the content.
Yes, let's go. And you also work from home as well, right?
Yep, work from home. I work with a company now called Floyd Lee Locums as the content director, and it is just the most amazing experience ever. It's a healthcare staffing company that does locums, a very specific part of healthcare staffing, and we're disrupting the industry and having a great time doing it.
So for all the content lovers out there, what's the secret? Let us in, let us in.
Being authentic, just be yourself. Because if you're going to do content and you want that to lead the way, the last thing you want to do is get a viral hit for something that was unintentional, right? So make your content intentional, make it part of your journey. You can always evolve and always shift, but make sure that everything you put out there is a good representation for your brand and what you really want to do.
So what book are we discussing today?
Well, a book that I read long ago and then I read again this past weekend called The Servant by James C. Hunter.
How would you describe this book in your own terms?
Well, the book defines leadership, right? And in a way that is, I think, somewhat unique. It distinguishes leadership as service to others, right? Serving the legitimate needs of others. And then it talks about how to do that. And it's through all of that that really resonated with me, made me think about this sort of leadership in every aspect of my life, whether it's at work, whether it's I'm out with friends, anywhere you need to share a common goal, especially being a dad, raising two boys that are now, 15 and 11, watching them grow up, knowing that they're getting ready for the next phase of their lives. It's meant a lot to me in that regard.
What made you choose this book?
Well, gosh, back early in my career, I read all kinds of books, right? And I was looking for a philosophy of life and love and career and finances. And this book just sort of stood out to me. Every once in a while you read a book and it just resonates and it feels very natural. And those are the books you remember, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this book is it didn't really present like a new concept or a new formula. It just took a lot of really great themes and it weaved a story, kind of a parable, if you will, and that was very relatable. And it just talked about the true definition of leadership, the biblical definition of love, all these different things that just really resonated with me.
Yeah. And how has it inspired you?
It's inspired me to really, think about what kind of leader I wanted to be, how I wanted to care for the people that I was responsible for, how I wanted to, practice a certain kind of love, right? In terms of how I cared for, listened to, and cared for anybody that I was either trying to achieve a common goal with, or just be a good father to. And it's really impacted my life in that way.
So how have you applied being a servant leader as a dad, in work, and in your personal life?
Okay. All right. That's a lot. Let's see.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Primarily, it's looking at how you treat others. It's almost like the golden rule, right? Treat others as you want to be treated. And it's consistency in that application over time, right? So for my kids, if I can treat them with patience and love and kindness and respect, even in moments where they're not necessarily showing that, the more that I can do that, the better off I'll be in terms of how consistent my behavior will be with them and showing them and giving them a good model for how they can behave.
Yeah.
And take that exact same example, apply it anywhere you want. In the workplace, as a leader, often the hierarchical nature of the workforce is thought of that leaders should be command and control, and it's power that kind of leads the way, when in fact, it's not. It's influence that leads the way. And if you're a servant leader and you're serving their legitimate needs, then you're taking into account the whole person. You're actively listening. You're doing all the things that you need to do to make someone feel valued, to gain their commitment to that goal, not just their compliance to come and show up to work.
Right. And the book talks about service rather than power. And
It
I've seen
does.
you on social media. You're one of the cool dads out there. Okay. I've seen you on
Thanks.
social media cooking. And what I found interesting was that is a service.
Yeah.
You're entertaining people,
Yeah.
you're providing information and insight on cooking. And there's something about a dad cooking that's a different twist.
Yeah.
And for me, watching your videos of you cooking it up, thought about me
And
and
that
my dad when he would make me bagel
mhm.
bites. And that was enough for me because my dad was doing a service for me. And sometimes servant leaders are in the household. So for
Yeah.
you, being a servant leader in all those three elements is really interesting.
Oh, that's cool. That's a nice way to
Yeah,
think about it. Yeah. Certainly, food is part of, the nourishment, the love that you give to other people. But yeah, cooking for the kids, doing it with them, showing them, being patient, talking about like knife skills, talking about, how to properly cook an omelet. And it's all part of the same thing. And of course, it's a special kind of love you have for your kids, so and practicing that patience and practicing that level of curiosity about where they're at
right,
and about how to help them get to that next level and allowing them to make mistakes
right.
without losing it, which
Of
I do
course.
sometimes. There's no doubt about it, but the more that I don't do that and the more that I'm consistent, just the better off I'm going to be in terms of being a good example for them.
Yes. So, when applying the golden rule of treat others how you would like to be treated, what difficulties have you found in that process?
Well, there's a whole chapter in here dedicated to love, right?
Hmm.
And it's the biblical definition of love. It's the agape definition of love, right? And it's like God said, love thy neighbor. He didn't say like your neighbor, right? Because there's some neighbors that maybe you don't like so much. But if you can practice that particular kind of love, and it's not a feeling, it's not an attraction, it's not the adoration of love, it's the definition of love that is about behavior. It's about being patient, being kind, being respectful, listening. If you can do all of those, even in the face of when maybe your neighbor isn't showing you all of that, well, that's not to get too biblical about it, but that's us at our most Jesus-like, right? So doing that in practice is something I've really tried hard to do. And I think all of us are a mixed bag of good and bad, right? So I think I'm pretty good with patience. I'm pretty good with a lot of the characteristics of that kind of love. I had to work a lot at being a decent listener, but I
Mm.
recognize that the better I am at that, the better results ultimately come of that. So that's just one example of how that works for me
Of course. So, is there a specific incident that has happened in your life where you might have not liked somebody, but you've had to show them love?
all the time. I think any parent can relate to a child that's misbehaving, right? And you know, every 2-year-old and 3-year-old is going to have their moment, and every teenager is going to have their moment. And it's funny because everybody wants something from a relationship,
Right.
and a parent wants something from their children from a relationship. But if again, you can simply practice, and I think they're listed out here. Let me take a look. Yeah. So the definition of agape love is patience, kindness, humility, respectfulness, selflessness, forgiveness, honesty, and commitment, right? None of those are feelings, right? They're all behaviors. They're all things that you do. And like emotional intelligence and discipline is defined as doing what really should be done and needs to be done, regardless of how you feel about it, right? And so we're at our best when we're doing the right things based upon this definition, not necessarily our feelings of the moment, because our
Mm.
feelings are going to guide us in certain ways that maybe would lead us towards anger or rage or resentment or not in the way of just simply being in that moment of love. And so that example that you can serve for your kids or for anybody you're with is always the best, even though it may not feel like the best thing at the moment.
Interesting. I love that. So, kind of
Yeah,
that tough love,
yeah.
implementing that more of that tough love.
Definitely, because it also includes boundaries, right? It's not all
Mm.
touchy-feely stuff. It includes boundaries that you set. It includes expectations, consequences for when behavior is not what should be, when behavior isn't as it should be, consequences for that. But if you can do it again and maintain that behavior of love,
Yeah.
you're going to find that the consistency you show over time, the kind of ultimately in the long run, and that's the whole thing.
Hmm.
Feelings are short term, but how you actually have behaved and what things that you've done are what's going to matter in the long term. And that's ultimately, and if you can remember that in the moment, that's ultimately what's going to carry the day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so the book, talking about love and leadership, the book
Mhm.
says leadership, love, and character are all synonymous. Do you agree?
Yes, right? Again, it's that long-term trend, right? If how I behave today will impact how others feel about me tomorrow. And it's kind of funny because the more that you can practice this particular kind of discipline, doing the right thing regardless of how you feel about it, behaving your way into feelings, not feeling your way into behavior. The more that you can do that, just I think the more consistent your behavior will be, the more fruitful your labor will be. Um, it's like you could wake up one morning, it's almost like self-discipline, right? If you
Hmm.
if you decided, hey, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, well, you have to change your behavior to do that, right?
True.
And if you make a commitment to yourself to say, well, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m., I'm going to go for a jog, I'm going to go for just a 2 mile run or something. But if you wake up and you suddenly, oh, I don't feel like it, now you're negotiating against yourself, right? And if you can not do that, if you can not negotiate against yourself, then you'll have a much better shot of doing the same with others and not negotiating against your principles when it comes to dealing with others.
Yeah.
So you get up and you run, and you find that when you run that 2 miles that you did not want to run, at the end of it, you feel better.
Hmm.
Right? So you act your way into the feelings that give you joy. You can't wait for the feeling to lead you into the action, right? Because
Wow.
otherwise you may never get it done.
Powerful.
Hmm.
Facts, bars, drop the bars. So being a servant leader is a skill. And
Yes,
the book talks about that, taking action to
does.
make a habit.
Hmm.
Have you ever been in a workplace where somebody was not a servant leader?
Yeah, I mean, we're surrounded by them, right? So
Right.
we're surrounded by them, and again, you can only control what you do, right? And sometimes you go toe to toe with somebody. Sometimes
Hmm.
you don't act in a way that you feel that you can be proud of, and it's really important to own that. That's part of the process too, owning that, holding yourself accountable to when you don't act perfectly. You know, we can't all be in our most Jesus-like way all the time.
Yes. And I love that because that's the transformation that people think that the company is only the CEO, but the
Yeah,
employees can be servant leaders as well.
yeah,
Just the
exactly.
CEO doesn't have to be the servant leader, right? And
Yes,
sometimes the employees are more of a their servant leadership is needed,
it
right? In
is.
the airlines per se, the CEO of the airlines is not the one dealing with the clients right there.
Right.
It's the flight attendants.
Yeah. Herb Kelleher recognized that his flight attendants were his most important employees or most important people.
Exactly. So
Exactly.
it's in that process that it's really interesting to see how
Yeah.
servant leaders can play a role in those.
Exactly. It really is. And the company I work for now, I've been there a year, Floyd Lee Locums. We run the company in this manner. And it's the most amazing thing to see. The culture is fantastic.
Wow.
It's in a business that is, it's locums, which is a certain kind of healthcare staffing, right? And we're revolutionizing the industry really because we're taking an approach that is moving away from the trend of commoditizing it and making it very impersonal and making it very transactional. And we're bringing back the personal touch and the concierge service, all these different things
Yes.
that are really being noticed and appreciated. And it's all because we have leaders at the top that believe in this kind of leadership. And it's the most phenomenal experience of my life and my entire career, just working for this one
Wow,
company.
that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so my question for you, have you always been a servant leader? Like how did you learn that?
Well, like I say, back early in my career, I read this book as soon as it came out, and I knew a little bit about servant leadership. And but as soon as I read this, I was like, okay, this is for me. I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to make some notes. And I'm big on planning, so I have like a spreadsheet and I have all that. I was pretty crazy
I
when
love
when I was younger.
it. Let the facts out.
Yeah, I did all this stuff, and I was like, all right, how am I going to count? How am I going to count for all this different, the definition of love, the application of it. And that's the cool thing about the book is it presents these concepts in a story that somehow, even though it's not apparent, it makes it applicable
Yes.
in a very practical sense. It's not just conceptual because it's
Yes.
told in that story. And so I think slowly over time, I became a servant leader to the best of my ability. And I think now, I'm in my 50s now, and I get to look back on some of the things that we did. I'm really proud of some things that we did, and I'm still correcting my behavior on a daily basis and still trying to
Yeah.
get better and better. But I'm in like even through my social media presence, I'm getting all kinds of questions about how to do this or how to do that, and it's an opportunity to practice. It's an opportunity to practice really. Okay, what does this person need? You know, and how can I best serve that? So that's always in my mind. I'm always very conscious of it. And I always try to do that.
Okay, question for you.
Hmm.
When you were younger, was money the driving force for you?
Oh yeah. Oh, I was arrogant. I didn't listen at all. Um, I I I was convinced, I like flashy watches. I don't even wear a watch today. And I look back at that and I'm like, wow, yeah. But hopefully I wasn't quite so bad. and and I was on a learning journey. I always recognized that. And over time, hopefully I just became a better person.
And so how did you overcome that? Like what shifted you from being like watches, the money, let's flex to I don't even wear watches, that's irrelevant. I'm just here for
A
my
number of
family.
Yeah, a number of things in my life, different milestones, right? Um, just a recognition that the happiness that the things brought me just didn't last. I get bored of a watch, or I get, the clothes. I still like clothes, but I don't have a need. I don't wear like fancy clothes anymore. I've been working from home for God knows how long, and
Yeah.
I'm lucky. You're lucky if you see me out of my pajamas, but but different milestones, getting a job, having a good mentor at work. I had a really wonderful mentor at the Sun Sentinel, a gentleman named Bob, and then having kids. As soon as you have that first child, something will change in you, and you come to this realization that, oh, my life isn't really about me at all. It's about relationships, and now I have this relationship that is more meaningful to me than anything else in the world. Between that and the person that brought him here.
Wow, so beautiful.
Yeah.
So what would you tell anybody listening to this that might be in their 20s and they're just like money, 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 money?
I would say do your thing, find your journey, but just recognize that life's a learning journey and do focus on your relationships. Read this book if you like. I think, if it resonates with you, that's wonderful. But keep it. Maybe read it again 10 years later. It might resonate more, because
Mm,
I think this book is filled with all kinds of wisdom that is relevant to you at different stages of your life for different reasons. But if you're young, do your thing, enjoy it. Put a little money away.
yeah.
Save a little money, and just recognize that the greatest satisfaction in life you're ever going to have is how well you've taken care of the people that are in your life, the people that you care about, the people that you're responsible for. End of story.
Wow. Love that. So beautiful. I love that.
Thanks.
So in that transformation, because I'm really big on transformation, in that transformation,
Mhm.
what's been the most valuable lesson that you feel like you have learned today?
Probably the recognition that the number one factor of success is going to be your ability to recognize your behavior today is going to matter to you a lot tomorrow. Your behavior today
Mm,
is going to matter to you a lot in the years ahead. And it's hard to impress that upon someone who's very young and doesn't even consider, they think the end of their life is millions of years away. And that's fine. That's where you should be. But there's a reason that the phrase life's wasted on the young, I'm sorry, youth is wasted on the young, exists. And that's because you think in very short term moments when you're young.
yeah.
Looking back at my life now, I recognize where I did some things good, where I didn't do some things well, but it matters. Most people on their deathbed, they did some research about this. This isn't in the book, but I've read about this. They talk about regrets. Nobody regrets not having made more money. Nobody regrets not having more things. They only regret not taking better care of their relationships. And that's all you need to know. That's
Mm,
it.
wow. What would you say is the key ingredient to your relationships?
Patience, listening, making someone else feel heard because you're actually listening to them. Something I've struggled with, and it's always been to my detriment. But hopefully, I'm pretty good at it now. And you know, listening, and I think curiosity. Stay curious. Stay curious. Like you're asking me all these questions. All I want to do is ask you all these questions, and it's
Yeah.
killing me to just have to talk about myself here.
I love it. You deserve the limelight. Take it. Take the limelight. We're here for this.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Wow, that's so beautiful. It's interesting because I feel like you radiate a lot of love and you put
Thanks.
that in your household. And I would say my biggest takeaway from the book was being a servant leader, not only being of service, but giving love.
Yeah.
And as you stated, with one of the regrets, not being about money, not being about certain things, it's the experiences and the connections we've have in the relationships that
100%.
we've acquired.
Yeah.
So for you to be a dad who seems to be very present is very admirable,
Thank you.
you know?
Yeah.
Because being a servant leader in the workplace is one thing, but in a household is a completely different experience. So how have you been able to find that balance of navigating both?
Well, I tell you, working from home has helped a lot. Having the
Mm,
flexibility to be around so I really salute all the single parents out there that have to work a job or two that they can't be home. It's something that I honestly can't relate to, and I feel I just admire them so much. But again, it's about your presence. Your kids don't want a lot; they just want to know that you're there and that you care
mhm.
about them, that you listen to them, and that you're going to do maybe one or two things they want to do throughout the day, even if it
Yes.
bores the crap out of you, you know, where it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you wanna do that again? Okay, let's do that again." If you can be enthusiastic about that with them, they'll be
Mhm.
enthusiastic with you later. Like
Facts.
Cats in the Cradle, that's that song is it's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You reap what you sow, what you put into it, you get out of it, and you can't go looking for the scorecard, though. You can't say, "Okay, I did this for you, now you gotta do this for me." You just give. You give,
Preach.
you give, you give, and the more you can do that, the better off you'll be in the long run, and that's where the idea of faith comes in, right? You just do it. Just do it and don't ask for anything in return.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Uh, in the story of your life, if your life was a movie, you don't have to be the main character in every scene. You know, you're also meant to be the supporting character, and that's okay. Be the supporting character. Put somebody else the center stage. Support them. And in this day of a lot of young folks thinking, "Oh, I'll be an influencer. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I want to be a star. I want to get famous this way." I kind of did that in my own small way, and but I did it for the reason of being in service to others. To say, hopefully, this content is good for you. I want to see where we're going. We're all on this journey together. Let's figure this out. Um, but the more that you can recognize that it's okay to be a supporting character, don't worry about it. If you're in a car full of people and you're not the one leading the conversation, it's all right. Just listen, contribute where you can. And that alone kind of, I think, just releases you from this pressure of feeling like you have to be on point all the time.
Can you explain the power of listening?
The power of listening isn't even for the listener. It's for the person who's talking to you. And it's like, wow, this person really makes me feel heard. Imagine if you could go around and everyone that you listen to felt heard and respected by you. Wouldn't that be amazing to know that? Well, that's why you want to invest in good listening skills. And the irony, I think they mentioned in the book too, is that when communication skills are taught in school, they talk about how to speak, how to write, how to. Very seldom do you get a class on how to listen, right? It's not a passive endeavor. It's not a passive endeavor. You have to actively listen. You have to stop thinking about what your response is going to be, put it away, listen, and let your response just be back to them. Hey, let me tell you, let me ask you if I heard you correctly. I heard you say this. You do that one thing, you got a friend for life. They go, wow, this person more than anyone else
Mm.
listens to me. It's incredible. I've had a lot of experience with that, and because I was not a great listener in my young life, and even recently, at times, I worked hard at that, and I see the difference. I see the contrast so much from when I try to do that, make sure that I do that with folks that I interact with now, than when I don't.
Right. What tip could you give to somebody who's working on their listening skills?
Yeah, there is actually, I mean, Google active listening. There's like three or four tenets of that, components of that. And if you can do that, and if you can remind yourself to stay silent in your mind, reflect back what someone's saying to you, and make sure that ask them, did you feel that I
Right.
that I really heard you? Don't be afraid of the obvious questions,
Yeah,
because if you can ask them, you get an answer. It's now you've got to figure it out.
of course. And it's interesting because when we talk about being a servant leader, one of the biggest things is feedback.
Yes.
Being able to
Yes.
listen to the feedback to be able to apply. And so, in that growth of listening and you transforming and maturing into that listening stage, what would you say has been the greatest reward of that?
One of the rewards I think is, first of all, when someone tells you, "Hey, I've got some feedback for you, what are you expecting?" Right? I don't know if you're expecting something positive or something negative.
Yeah.
Oh, feedback. I don't know. But I think one of the things that it's done for me is it allows me to assume positive intent. Someone says, "Hey, we need to talk." I'm like, "Great. What are we going to talk about?" Because whatever it is, I know that I'm going to be engaged. I'm going to work with you. If it's good or bad, ultimately, I'm going to be committed to making sure we're heading in a good direction. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's really, I mean, that's as complete an answer as I think I can give. Everything else is just kind of a function of that. but I think there's also a lot of content on how to assume positive intent when you get an invitation for communication, and it just helps you look forward to things, which is part
Yes,
of happiness, being
of
able to look
course.
forward to things. So that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. And intention with action is huge.
Exactly, right?
Talk about that action that you've taken in your life throughout the course of your different jobs, through the
Yeah.
course of becoming a father, and through the course of having an online presence.
Yeah, there was a job that I had that was really high stress, and it was a lot of a lot of discovery because it was basically a startup, and it
Mm,
was all these things, and it was cool. It appealed to my ADHD brain in a way because it was all these different things we can get into, and some of them would fail, so we'd cast them aside, then we got beyond to the next. But it robbed me of, because it was in banking, which is a worthy endeavor, no doubt about it. People need financial services, but it didn't appeal to me creatively, right? So I had this creative outlet that I had to sort of get off my chest. And that's when I began the dad briefs, right, online. And I thought, all right, let me create this social media marketing company and just try to create some content and just use it as an outlet and see where that journey takes me. So wait, what was the original question? I forgot.
intention and action, like how you've
Oh
taken
yeah,
action. You're
yeah.
explaining the action. You're doing good. You're doing good. Keep it rolling.
so so and I went through a period while I did that of not feeling inspired, right? But then
Mm,
I remembered the teachings of this book and a few other things that I read. It's like, no, 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 no. You do, and then you feel. You don't feel, then you do. So I had these intentions, I combined them with actions, and that led to something good. That led to a certain amount of joy in my life because I was now creating something and I was doing it with an intention, right?
mm,
And where did that lead me? It led me to a company that I'm at now that actually appreciated the fact that I went on that journey and I did the things that I did. And the role that I have with the company now, because I was in sales for a while, and it was great. But they knew that I had this creative bent, and they said, "Hey, you really want to do this, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I
mm.
kind of do." And they're like, "Okay, go do it." And I'm like, "Yes!" So I started. Now I'm the content creator for this company, and it's great. So I do both.
Wow.
And so for Floyd Lee locums and for the Dad Briefs, I get to create content. I get to do all these really really cool things, and they feed off each other now. And it's this
Mm,
multiplier effect of benefit to the company that I'm working for, but also to my own heart, to my own journey, and ultimately to my own learning.
mm. What would you say your why is?
My wife, my kids, making sure that they're well cared for, and that um, that I'm doing right by them, serving as a good example for them. I have a new relationship in my life, and it's the most amazing love, and doing right by that. There's all kinds of whys all around me, but those are definitely my big ones.
Right. And the
It's a big part of it too.
characteristics of a servant leader: humility, compassion, empathy,
Right,
service, all of these things combined.
right.
What would you say is the biggest character trait that resonates with you the most?
What resonates with me the most now is definitely humility because I wasn't always humble, or as much
Mm,
as I should be, I should say. And if you look at our environment today, our political environment, our the discourse on media, it's incredibly toxic, and and we're lacking in humility, right? And people want to be proud. They want to be, they want to be, absolute in their beliefs and their feelings, and they want to be validated for their feelings. And they want to exercise power, and really humility is the answer to that. And
mm,
and people who don't see that sometimes struggle with that. And what they don't realize is that humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's just thinking of yourself less often, right? Like regarding yourself. Don't be the main character in every scene you're in. Be supportive, find reasons to support others. And if you and get yourself in the habit of working on that and finding that, you can easily just, lose yourself in the moment, be a good servant leader by serving others, and all that pride and all that power hungriness just kind of fades away.
How can someone know when to be a main character or when to be a supporting role?
Yeah, that requires a little bit of self-awareness. It does. Um, Look around the room. There's a definition of being a gentleman, and that is when you're out and about, you have a role to make others feel comfortable, right? That's part of being a servant leader, right? And if you walk into a room or walk into an environment, if you can scan, generally anybody can scan a room and see someone that is not in the right frame of mind, or not really, having a great time or doing something, maybe you can approach them and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, how's it going?" Introduce yourself. Or if you know them already, "Hey, what's going on? Is everything okay?" And just show them that you're curious, show them you care,
Love that.
and that's it.
Love
There's
that.
another saying too. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Part of being a good leader is showing that you care first, extending that respect, extending that agape love, and then they will follow you. Then they will listen to the things you have to say about any shared goal that you have to accomplish.
Yes. And self awareness is a huge theme in this book. Do you consider yourself somebody who's self aware?
The only thing I would say about that is I'm more self-aware now than I've ever been in my life, right? And I still have a long way to go.
Love that.
But
Self
it's
awareness
it's
is it's a never
it's a
ending
journey.
journey. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
journey. That's exactly what it is. It's not a destination, it's a
right.
journey.
There's something in the book about blind spots. There is the things that you are unconscious and unaware, then you're conscious and unaware, and then something else, and then ultimately you're unconsciously aware.
Yeah.
you know,
Yes, it was like four stages.
yeah, 4 stages, and the stages of learning essentially, and self-discovery, and or any task or any skill that you're trying to develop, really. And uh, as far as self-awareness is a concern, hopefully I'm in some of the latter stages in most areas of my life. Yeah.
Love that. Are there any final takeaways you have from the book?
Yes. If you're going to read anything, read the chapter on love and what the definition of love is. It's not a feeling, it's not a choice, it is a behavior. It is what you do. It is love in action. And when God said, "Love thy neighbor," that's what we're talking about. You don't have to like them. Just like you don't have to like your coworkers, your teammates, the people that you encounter. But if you can demonstrate that love in that particular sense, you might find that the outcomes of your life are a whole lot better.
Do you have that love for yourself?
Ah, increasingly so, yes. Increasingly so. I'm very, very happy to say I have that kind of joy most of the time.
I love that. Congrats. So
Thanks.
while we get into our fun little game, can
Yep.
you give us your best dad joke?
My best dad joke?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. It's dad joke time. So I've written 3 books of dad jokes, and let's see if I can come up with one of them. My favorite of all time is really this one. Some people prefer elevators. Some people prefer escalators. It really depends on how you were raised. And God help me
That's such a dad joke.
if I can think of one more, that would be great. But I don't think I can after that.
I'm not gonna lie. Dad jokes are pretty epic coming from dads.
They better
Like
be.
it has to come from a dad though.
We're the only ones that have the right to tell them.
I'm like in moments of like dinner when things get awkward, somebody tells a dad joke and you like laugh to yourself, but you needed that moment to light up the room. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna do a word association game.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you 10 words from the book and 10 words not from the book. And you have
Okay.
to say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Leadership,
Servitude.
humility,
Yes.
influence,
Truth.
empathy,
Necessary.
integrity,
Also necessary.
purpose,
Journey.
listening,
Getting better.
wisdom,
Better than knowledge.
stewardship,
Responsibility.
determination.
Necessary.
Yes, necessary is the top 3 win. Let's go.
It's so funny.
I love how our brains work.
Yeah.
All right, 10 not from the book.
Okay.
You ready?
Ready.
Elephant.
Pink. The hell is that?
Sunshine.
Florida.
Tornado.
Kansas.
Sympathy.
Yes.
Bike.
Hmm?
Bike.
Mike. Fish. What the hell? Sorry. There must be a dad joke in there somewhere.
Bike. Fish. Chocolate.
Raspberry.
Moonlight.
Water.
Carousel.
It's funny. I thought you said kerosene. And I was like, light it up. Carousel. Horse.
Eloquent.
Speaking.
Thunderstorm.
Love it.
Yes, you love
I
thunderstorms.
love
Let's go.
thunderstorms. I love thunderstorms.
Wow. Well, so necessary and yes are your top answers.
Okay.
Noted. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's just I don't know. I just felt, particularly in the context of the book, it just felt yes, that's correct.
Yes,
That's what came to mind.
I love that.
Kind of blanked out.
So, where can people find you?
Well, I have my biggest platform is Instagram. So I'm at the Dad Briefs on Instagram, where we do recipes and reactions and reviews and hacks and humor. Um, and I'm on the other platforms too, but like TikTok and Twitter and so on and so forth. But yeah, find me there, and I hope you enjoy the content. I would love to see you there. And send me a message.
Awesome. And you have a book as well. What's your book called?
I have 3 books out. The last book is a collection of dad jokes called a collection of cringy crack ups. And is blessed that Penguin Random House published it, and it's on Amazon and bookstores now.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for being here, Slade. It
Thank
has
you.
been an honor sharing this time with
Ah,
you.
it's
Thank
been
you. Thank you. Thank you.
it's been a blessing. It's wonderful to meet you, and thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. If you're interested in reading The Servant, we highly recommend. Make sure to click the link in the description to get your copy today. Also, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We would love to hear from you. And turn the page. We'll see you next time.